Hello everybody, I am Kiran and today the session is about different SDLC models. We'll begin with Waterfall model, one of the oldest model in all the SDLC models being followed. So let's begin. So Waterfall is one of the oldest model. The name Waterfall comes from the logic that all the steps in this model flows like a stream of water, that is from top to down. It is a sequential model. So all the steps of SDLC which we have learned in the previous sessions, which are requirement gathering, then designing of those requirements, then coding, then testing and maintenance. You can see it occurs in a sequential manner, that is one after the other. Now, as a stream of water flows downward, similarly, the steps in this model flows downward. Also, as a stream of water can't flow backward, here, if we have reached to a particular stage, we cannot go backward into a previous stage and rework. This is not feasible in this model. So, again, step by step, sequential, old model, and all the steps of SDLC are followed in a sequential pattern. That is the definition of waterfall, and this diagram makes it very clear that how it happens. So the team members of a particular phase are actually not performing anything until the previous phase is complete. That is, testing team will come into picture only once the coding is complete. Also in this model, the client is able to have a look on what has been developed only at the end. So there is no feedbacks in between. Client satisfaction is less in this model because he will only be able to see his project running at the end of the deployment. Let's move forward and see what's more is there in this model. We will talk about some of the advantages of this model. Of course, this model is very easy to use and implement and understand, because what all we have to do is to keep on performing each phase completely and then move on to the next phase. So there is no complexity of following a process or going to and fro, reworking. So these are avoided. So simply there is requirement gathering, then there is designing of those requirements, then there is coding, then there is testing, and then there is deployment and maintenance. So that's what happens in this model. So it's very easy to use and implement. The second advantage of waterfall model is it is a document driven model. That is, a lot of time is invested and is kept for creating good documentation. When we learn further models, we'll see that documentation has a lot of time crunch and very less time is allowed for creating long and detailed documents. But here it's an old model and nowadays it's becoming obsolete, but yes, we cannot say that it's no more used, but it's becoming gradually obsolete because agile is coming into picture, and many companies, most of the companies are trying to follow agile because agile is very flexible and very fast a model. So here the second point or advantage of waterfall focuses on good documentation, which is very important, guys. If you have good set of documents for a project, it's very easy to transfer that project to different team members, or if there is a new similar project coming in, these documentations can be very helpful in understanding and starting on with the work. Third, if any team member is leaving the company and new members are joining in the company, it's very easy to do the knowledge transfer using this documentation. So there is no blank situation where there is no information or knowledge on what's going on or what was going on in the project. So documentation is very important for any project. Now, we should be using this model where the milestones are very clear. Yes, because you cannot tend to go back, as we said, one of the disadvantages of this model. So we have to know that, okay, we have to deliver this much in this time frame, and we have to perform accordingly. Because if we don't know that what we have to deliver in a month's time and then in the second month, it will be difficult for the team members to be flexible here. Here, everything has to be predefined and well planned. So, milestones, when it is clear, it's good to use waterfall. So, that is the advantage of it, that you have to, if you have good milestones clear, you can use waterfall model. Now this example, this pointer is also very important, that if your product is very matured, and there is no changes in the requirements coming up, then you can choose this model, and it's good to choose this model. So what is matured product? Let's say you're working for a company, a client, and it's account manager. So there's an account manager for any company or client you're working, and it's a well matured project. And there are minor updations and changes required in between. So you can use this model so that it's a already dedicated project and you are just working on some updations on that particular base. So this model is good for all matured products. Let's also talk about disadvantages. So anything and everything has pros and cons. Here in this well-established, good, easy, simple model will also have disadvantages. So far you might have already thought of disadvantages, which are like having less flexibility or having less customer satisfaction, which we already talked about in the previous slides. Here you know that, okay, we talked that, okay, the milestone should be very clear. The requirement should be well defined. There are no changes allowed. Now, isn't it a very unrealistic situation to expect that all the requirements will be known upfront in the beginning of the project? It's a little unrealistic to know because there can be changes, there can be updations, and this model doesn't welcome changes. So that's a very big disadvantage of waterfall, that it is not flexible, it is not agile, and also it is very unrealistic to have such an expectation wherein everything should be very clear from the very beginning. Moving on to the second pointer, it's not allowing us to go back on any phase and do some changes and then move forward. So tracing back is not allowed here. So that is again something which is disadvantageous, because I think some flexibility should be available in all the models which we follow, because it's very, very, again, unrealistic expectations to know everything from the beginning. Moving on, software is delivered late in the project. Yes, so you get the final product only at the end, the final running software only at the end. So if there are major serious issues while running the software, it will be very delayed, because it will be very late to know the issue and then fix it again. So software is delivered very late, and it's really delays the finding out of the serious issues in the system which might occur while the entire system is working together. So that's certainly a disadvantage. Next point is about customer satisfaction, which we talked in the beginning. So the customer satisfaction is very less, because the customer is able to see his project or software only at the end of the deployment. If he wants to give some feedback in between while there is planning happening or maybe coding or testing, he is not allowed to see his software. So again, it can be very risky for a customer to not be able to see what's going on. So the customer satisfaction is very less in this model. Now, we come up with another slide which shows that when to use waterfall, like in what kind of projects we should actually think of choosing waterfall model. Again, we talked about that the requirement should be well known. all the requirements should be well defined, that okay, fine, in this project we'll require to do so much of work in so much time, and we have to do these particular tasks. So everything is well defined here. So only then we should be using waterfall. If you think that there can be some flexibility, there can be some changes of the technology or changes in the requirements, no, you are not going to choose waterfall in that case. Product definition is stable. As I said, yes, it is good to use this model when the product is very matured. You know what the product is all about. It's not any new project altogether, because in that case there can be flexibility required and changes should be welcomed. Here the product should be very stable, only then you should choose waterfall model. The technology is well understood, yes, because you cannot just switch technologies in between. It will be very costly for any company, because if you think that yes, this will work out, only then you should move forward. You cannot change technologies in between. Okay, no, fine, it's not working out, we'll change it, go back. No going back is allowed right here. So we have to have good knowledge and credibility on whatever tools and technologies you're going to choose and start working on in waterfall model. Again, if there's a new version of an existing product, let's say there's a software which is running and we have to do some updations, so new version, so let's say the current version was v 1.0, then there will be v 1.1, v 1.2, so you're actually updating the stable project. In that case, it's very good to use this model, because there's a stable project, you know what milestones you have to fulfill and what all requirements you have to perform, and it's a well established mature product. You can use this model successfully. So these are the kind of projects where you should choose waterfall model. So today we learned about the definition of waterfall. We also discussed the diagram of it and how it flows like a stream of water, cannot go back. All the SDLC steps are followed in a sequential manner. It's an old model. Gradually it's becoming obsolete, but not completely. Then we talked about advantages of waterfall, then disadvantages of waterfall, and also when to use this kind of model. So we'll end the session for today. In next session, we'll learn about V model, which is yet another variant of a waterfall model. Thank you.